Thank you very much. Good morning, Dr. Sikat, dear classmates, and good morning, my group mates. I will be discussing the cultural aspects in the foundations of education. With the advancements of education and the digital revolution in today's era, we've seen the rapid and dramatic changes in our culture today compared to that of yesterday's. In our Filipino culture alone, there's a great influence of the foreign culture to our own. Yes, indeed, culture has no bounds. However, as Filipinos, we need to uphold and cultivate our own good cultural practices. Teach our children the genuine and the true value of our culture. Teach them the true essence or the real essence of patriotism. So, we will be looking to the different definitions of culture according to these anthropologists and sociologists. So, first, we'll be starting with, according to E.B. Taylor, an eminent English scholar, he defines culture as a complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, arts, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. And next here is Leslie. He refers to culture as an organization of phenomena that is dependent upon symbols, phenomena which include acts, objects, ideas, and sentiments. In this sense, culture means the entire way of life of people and everything learned and shared by people in society. And also, we have here Alan Johnson. He said that culture is the sum total of symbols, ideas, forms of expression, and material products associated with a system. It is a dynamic medium through which a societies create a collective way of life reflected in such things as belief, values, music, literature, art, dances, science, religious ritual, and technology. And last is Richly Crapo, an American anthropologist 2001, a system of ideas, feelings, and survival strategies shared in a particular group. He claims that culture is the structure that unifies a human group and gives an identity and as a society. Let's move on now to the components of culture. First, the communication component. We have language and symbols. And of course, language makes communication possible. And symbols serve as the basis for everyday life. Symbols vary within cultures, cross-culturally, and change over time, and can only bring big ideas and deeply held values into everyday social. Language is a key factor in the success of the human race in creating and preserving culture, for without language, the ability to convey ideas and traditions is impossible. And a man's language is a reflection of the kind of person he is, the level of education he has attained, and an index to the behavior that is expected of him. Next, cognitive component. It is how we think. Includes ideas, knowledge, beliefs. Ideas are mental representations used to organize stimulus. They are the basic units out of which knowledge is constructed and a world emerges. Knowledge is the storehouse where we accumulate representations, informations, facts, assumptions, and others. Beliefs accept a proposition, statement, description of facts as true. Another component is values, defined as culturally defined standards of desirability, goodness, and beauty, which serve as broad guidelines for social living. They support beliefs or specific statements that people hold to be true. Though values vary to some degree by age, sex, race, ethnicity, religion, and social class, individuals are likely to experience some inconsistency and conflict with their personal values. We have also accounts. People who share a culture share a common language for talking about their inner selves. Accounts are how people use the common language to explain, justify, rationalize, excuse, or legitimize our behavior to themselves and others. Let's also see the behavioral component of culture. It is how we act. We have here norms. which are rules and expectations by which a society guides the behavior of its members. Norms, though, can change over time, as illustrated by norms regarding sexual behavior. Norms may vary in terms of their degree of importance and can reinforce through sanctions which take the form of either rewards or punishments. So, norms are standards that define the obligatory and expected behavior of people in various situations. Let's see the types of norms. First is mores. They are the customary behavior patterns or folkways which have taken on a moralistic value. This includes the respect of family, authority, marriage and sex behavior patterns, religious rituals, and other basic codes of human behavior and folkways. There are behavior patterns of society which are organized and repetitive. The key feature of all folkways is that there's no strong feeling of right or wrong. They are simply the way people usually do things. Therefore, folkways are commonly known as customs. Rituals, on the other hand, are highly scripted ceremonies or strips of interaction that follow a specific sequence of actions. They occur at predetermined times or triggered by specific cues. Like, for example, ceremonies like graduation, baptisms, funerals, weddings, birthdays, holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and also like handshake, greeting, kissing, and so on and so forth. And last is the material component, the tangible component of culture. Like, for example, technologies, computers, and other material culture. So, this is the summary of the components of culture. How culture is being transmitted. It is transmitted through enculturation, the process of learning culture of one's own group. Example, learning the folkways, mores, social traditions, values, and beliefs of one's own group. Next, acculturation, the process of learning some new traits from another culture. For example, a student from a province migrates to the urban areas. Normally, he or she adapts to the urban customs. And next is the assimilation. It is the term used for a process in which an individual entirely loses any awareness of his or her previous group identity and take on the culture and attitudes of another group. Moving on, please take a look at the importance and functions of culture. There are quite a number of characteristics of culture. These are the following. Culture is learned. The first essential characteristic of culture. A child born in the Philippines but was brought to the US after birth may not develop traits characteristic of Filipinos. Basically, he learned the behavior pattern of characteristics of American children, including their language. Culture is learned by a group of people. For a thought or action to be considered cultural, it must be commonly shared by some population or group of individuals. Even if some behavior is not commonly appropriate, it is cultural if most people think it is appropriate. For example, the idea of marriage involves only one man and one woman is. Next, culture is cumulative. Knowledge is stored and passed on from one generation to the next, and the new knowledge is being added to what is existing. Each culture has worked out solutions to the basic problems of life, which is then passes on to its children. The jeepneys and tricycles in the Philippines are a good example of the cumulative quality of culture. Their invention involved the use of materials which were invented in the different places of the world. Next, culture is dynamic, a character of culture that stems from its cumulative quality. No culture is ever in a permanent state. It is constantly changing because new ideas and new techniques are added and old ways are constantly modified and discarded. This is because of the rapid changes that occur which may introduce from within or without. Another culture is ideational. Culture is an ideal pattern of behavior which the members are expected to follow. Man assigns meanings to his environment and experiences by symbolizing them. These are internalized by the individual and he sees or approaches his world from the standpoint of this culture. Culture is diverse. The sum total of a human culture consists of a great many separate cultures, each of them different. Culture as a whole is a system with many mutually interdependent parts. Say, for example, the choice of marriage partner involves many different parts of culture as religion, economic class, education, and other factors. The last characteristic of culture is culture gives us a range of permissible behavior patterns. Every culture allows a range of ways in which men can be men and women can be women. Culture also tells us how different activities should be conducted, such as how one should act as a husband, wife, parent, or a child. These rules of permissible behavior are usually flexible to a degree. There are some alternatives rather than hard rules. For instance, culture tells us how we should dress based on our gender, but it allows us to dress in different ways in different situations in order to communicate varied messages and statuses. The clothing patterns of women in this society can be particularly rich and complex. At last, my last topic, the relationship between sociology and anthropology, or society and culture. According to Ray Bradbury, you don't have to burn the books to destroy culture, just get people to stop reading them. Thank you very much for listening. References, Foundations of Education book, and Social Dimensions of Education. Again, thank you very much and have